David Jolly is a former Republican congressman who represented Florida from 2014 to 2017. Tressie McMillan Cottom is a professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, author of the book Lower Ed, The Troubling Rise of For-Profit Colleges in the New Economy. And they both join me now. Tressie, you've written and thought a lot about the politics of education, particularly higher education. And I'm just curious when I heard DeSantis say parents are telling me they're worried, I heard a real complaint that he has heard from parents, which is this idea that this is what happens. We have our precious little kids and we bring them up on our values and they go to colleges and they come back without them.
I don't doubt that that is a real concern, but a real concern that has been directed at DeSantis does not make it a legitimate concern, one grounded in reality. And that's the distinction. Look, Chris, we have two things happening here. We have a information campaign and a disinformation campaign. And when you see the merging of these two things come together in the moral panic over critical race theory, right? So on one hand, you've got the misinformation campaign, which mischaracterizes a legitimate subfield of academic study, right? Critical race theory has its tenets, has its proponents, has its scholarship. It is, however, not taking over higher education curriculums. Arguably, economics perhaps has done that, but not critical race theory. It is legitimate, but it is not the central work of most institutions of higher education today. But the misinformation campaign confuses people about the legitimate tenets of what critical race theory means. Then you got the disinformation campaign. That's the campaign that labels any idea that the conservatives find disagreeable as critical race theory. This misinformation and disinformation campaign, as you so eloquently point out, is the sort of like last, gasp of a powerful party that is still, however, intellectually impotent, right? And an intellectually impotent ideology and party, you know what it'll do, Chris? When it cannot win, it will cheat. It will cheat. And so if you cannot compete in the marketplace of ideas, what you fundamentally do is what DeSantis is doing. You ask for market protectionism, right? It doesn't want to compete against ideas about learning about poverty or learning about the real history of this nation or global capitalism. So it wants to cheat. That is consistent with modern day Republican politics, but it is inconsistent with intellectualism.
That is very, very, very well put. David, the sort of the anxiety here and this driving fact that education polarization increasingly is one of the big stories of American politics. It's actually a story across the entire OECD world, right? It's happening in all kinds of places. It's amazing for me to watch Republicans turn against colleges en masse, right, as a cultural thing. I mean, you've got parents who are middle class, upper middle class, affluent folks who, I want my kids to go to college, who are now turning against the institution. What? I don't like this thing.
Yeah, Chris, look, each week brings continued affirmation that the Republican playbook for 2022 will be culture wars. It'll be a war on education. It'll be descriptions of critical race theory. It will be issues around immigration and crime. And in large part, they will manufacture these anxieties, and Republicans will follow along. I find it fascinating that Governor DeSantis said the premise of this is that parents worry about their kids going to college and being indoctrinated. I would suggest that if parents feel secure in their beliefs and in the beliefs they've instilled in their children, if they feel secure in the beliefs of their family, they're okay with those beliefs being challenged. In fact, the greatest value in public education would be teaching their own children to think critically, to be confronted by diverse ideology, diverse thought. And so I would suggest if the governor was secure in his own beliefs and his own convictions, and if of the 9 people in that frame, if all 8 white men and the 1 white woman felt secure about their convictions and the way they brought up their children, right, I think they would welcome the diversity of thought that occurs on our college campuses. That's not what's at play here. It is performative politics, and it is geared towards 22. It is geared towards Ron DeSantis' presidential run. And Chris, I will say one thing about Ron DeSantis' presidential run. Ron DeSantis is more successfully executing Trumpism than Donald Trump himself has. Right. He absolutely has. He may not be the next president of the United States, but when there is a next Republican president, I do believe it'll be Ron DeSantis.
I think that's true. I would also note that, like, this is at one level stunty, but the other level, like, genuinely creepy when the surveys start going around. You're the professor who has to, like, answer your views as, like, polled by the state, which is surveilling them. I want to play this bit of sound which is adjacent to this, which is, I opened the show by saying, look, conservatives or traditionalists worrying about the universities is as old, it's millennia old, okay? But turning this same kind of culture war thing on the military is remarkable to me. Like, they have now the argument is, no, another bastion of, like, woke radicalism in America is the Pentagon. And this was the subject of an exchange today with Mark Milley, who's an Army general, at a hearing today. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that, because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look, I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets. But I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military.
One note, Matt Gaetz, definitely not a Green Beret. I think he has a Green Beret in partying. But I just thought, like, that was a pretty good distillation of the response, Tressie.
I thought it was excellent. I can't believe I find myself agreeing with the general, but pretty much captured not only what critical race theory is, but why it is important to both the intellectual endeavor and to public life. And this is an important turn that I think Democrats are going to have to make, that I don't think that they have yet made for various reasons. But critical race theory is anti. It is performative, massive resistance, right? It's in that grand tradition. It is against a long list of things. What the general did there that is actually, I think, really good politics and just really good for the health of public debate is that he made an affirmative case for what critical race theory contributes to public life. And I think more people are going to have to do that. More politicians are going to be called on the carpet to do it. And it cannot just be people of color. It has to be someone. The most powerful thing he said there, to my mind, was, I'm white. Yeah. And this matters to me. I think people need to see that happen in public discourse.